Communication 21 requests the Mayor and Managing Director or designee to provide a briefing regarding the specific utilization of state funds received by the county for law of emergency response expenses and an update on the county's request for additional funding. From Council members Ashley L. Kirkovitz and Matt Connolly Kleinfelder, dated December 7, 2018.
I really want to sincerely acknowledge our residents, our landowners, and businesses who have gone through these challenging times with us of loss and change. It's been a journey. While government sometimes seems sterile and uncaring, I want to say that some of us in county government and state government have lost homes and special places as well. So the large image indicates the event, the upright section, upright, and then you see the brown short-term response portion, and then the longer term in yellow and in green are the steps to recovery. Resources. What resources have been secured and spent to date? Grants and in-kind resources that have come in to date total about $500,000. We have an economic development grant from the Economic Development Administration, a hazard mitigation grant, and a smaller grant for cities from the cities for financial empowerment. And then the university's Pacific Disaster Center is assisting us with in-kind resources with a risk assessment. Looking at the resources that have been spent to date, I'm going to ask Deanna to come forward and help us with some of this.
Ron was just noting the 10 and 12 million are swapped. So initially we got 12 million from the governor's office to help with the emergency response and for health, safety, and all those emergency needs. And we have spent 7.2 million of that and have roughly $4.8 million left. And then we got another $10 million to help more with the recovery portion of it. That's the portion that recently was appropriated by the council, and so we just got that. But like some of those grants that Ron just showed, that would be used like for matching. Some of those do have matching amounts that we need to provide, so to be used for matching and other studies and different things that they have planned to lead us into the recovery.
The next question we wanted to cover what resources are being pursued to support the recovery process. So on the federal level, we're anticipating that FEMA public assistance would bring in $180 to $190 million. And this would go towards future roads, water lines, parks, other public infrastructure. And that would be identified as we go forward in the future. The other funding source that we are pursuing at the federal level is HUD's Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Funds. There was a recent appropriation by Congress, so we are working with our congressional offices as well as HUD in pursuing those resources. For the legislative ask for this coming session, we have a total of $155 million that we would like to pursue, $11 million for state programs and operations, and then also $144 million that would be appropriated out of the governor's office via a state disaster recovery coordinator who would oversee the approval for release of those funds. This legislative ask would cover response, relief, and recovery activities. It would be a 2-year request for funding to cover the biennium. We would be looking at a local cost share, again, to match those any federal programs that are require a match. Recovery projects that may or may not be covered by federal programs, as long as those are in accordance with a recovery plan, which we are working towards. And then also with seeking funds to administer and implement funding sources. The state ask was broken down into 6 components. The first one is health, and this would go to support Department of Health's existing programs to further support mental health needs of residents, students, and then also addressing air quality and monitoring and permanent and air quality in the classroom as well. The Department of Agriculture has a need to increase its agricultural revolving loan fund. So these are funds that stay with the state but are appropriated out of the Department of Agriculture to help revitalize our agricultural sector. One of the big ticket items would be $61 million for regional infrastructure. Again, this would be the required match of 25% for FEMA's public assistance programs. We anticipate that these would be allocated by the State Disaster Recovery Coordinator in accordance with a recovery plan that was to be developed. And again, supporting infrastructure as identified as appropriate and public facilities. The next area would be $55 million for housing. What we're looking is at implementation of housing infill as identified by the Community Development Plan for Puna. And this would be to accommodate impacted populations, and again, aligning that with the recovery plan. These estimates are currently based on potential scenarios. Because this eruption, as the mayor indicated, has not been deemed to be over, we wanted to include $23 million for emergency to sustain emergency operations. We're also looking at the county had equipment out there in the field continuously over 100 days with high levels of emissions, so we need to have those pieces of equipment serviced and properly maintained. So this island has suffered a major disaster, and I would equate it to, if you look back, the state has not had a significant disaster of this scope since Iniki, and we need the human and other processes put into place that can support the recovery process. So, and that is both at the state level and the county level. So we are asking for resources to support that, both at the state level as well as a county level. So in closing, the administration, we look forward to working closely with the county council as well as our community in making this ask. We want to be able to optimize and align our recovery plans with those of the community and move forward.
I echo the sentiments of our chairperson. Really wanted to thank the two of you and all the others who are involved in this endeavor. And I particularly want to thank you for engaging the council and taking the time to meet with us. That's so important because we really want to present a united front in all of this. It's vital. We can't be going all over the place. So having said that, I think one of the key messages that we've been getting from the legislature, and I think all of you have been getting it over these last several months, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, because you guys have been on the front lines. They've really been going out to the legislature and spending a lot of time with our very key members of both the House and the Senate. And the word that we get is they're still somewhat frustrated or waiting for specific proposals, not general amounts, 10 million here for this, and whatever it is. They want to see things in the ground, whether it be paving a road, on 132 highway or something tangible that they can see, and then that they can affix a specific price tag to. Because the last thing they want to do is give the county, carte blanche on money, because they don't know if it's going to be used for whatever stated purposes there were. It might be used for overtime, continue doing, they want to see tangible results.
We have not had financial resources to plan for recovery. As I mentioned, the state and the counties have not had this level of disaster in many, many decades. And so as we've moved forward, we've made do with the resources we had, and those were in-house resources, and they're in addition to existing responsibilities. And we're not complaining, but we do have a strategy, we have a plan, we're working forward, we do need the resources. And I think that we could pick and choose any one of these components and do only one or two. But this community suffered through, and this island has suffered through a major disaster. It's not about, just putting people back in houses or putting roads in. There is major disruption of business, there's major disruption of families, and so we want to look at this very holistically. We also know that we live on an active volcano.
I mean, let's just put ourselves in their shoes, right? The same thing that you said is what they're looking out for too.